that.
Well,
See, that's why. No, hold on a minute.
But you cited what happened in the. So you're saying that it's fine for them to join NATO then?
I didn't say any of those things, and I don't like when someone tries to give words and interpret without understanding. I'm done. Okay. I'm off. I don't like you.
Okay, well, that's fine.
What is up, everybody? Harry here. Quick note, this clip is about a year old, but with the Ukraine peace negotiations still very much a live topic, it's worth revisiting. This is Lewis Goodall on LBC interviewing Dr. Jan Halper Hayes, a former Trump transition team advisor, about the infamous Oval Office meeting between Trump, Vance, and Zelensky. Goodall pushes on some specific claims, what Zelensky actually said, whether Putin has shown any real interest in a ceasefire, and the interview ends with Halper Hayes walking off. Let's get into exactly what was said and what holds up. Get subscribed if that's useful to you. Let's get into it.
I've got to turn now to, as promised, to Dr. Jan Halper Hayes, former Global Vice President of Republicans overseas, as an advisor to Donald Trump's 2017 transition team. Dr. Halper Hayes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Do you understand why so many in this country and in Europe more generally would have seen what happened in the Oval Office as an attempt to humiliate President Zelensky and be repulsed by it?
Well, if they watched all 53 minutes, then I don't think they would have that feeling. If they saw clips of it, which of course will be clips of J.D. Vance and Trump being very angry with Zelensky, then of course they would come to that.
Could you imagine President Trump speaking to, say, President Putin in that way? And isn't it precisely the point that he wouldn't, that is part of the problem?
Well, if President Putin pushed him the way Zelensky pushed Trump,
what did Zelensky do? What did he do that was so egregious in your view?
Well, one is that he started litigating the 2014. He said, I don't want a ceasefire.
He said he wants peace repeatedly. He just doesn't want it on Russia's terms, which you'll understand because Russia invaded his country.
But he said, I don't want a ceasefire. He made that comment to Trump.
He said he doesn't want a ceasefire if he knows that Putin is just going to renege on it a couple of months later, which is fair enough, isn't it? Because he's done that repeatedly, you will accept.
Exactly.
No, not exactly. I mean, the point is that, of course, anyone wants a ceasefire, but there's no point in having a ceasefire, is there? Which is what Zelensky was saying to Trump, if Putin is just going to renege on it shortly afterwards.
And Trump was saying, how do you really know? I mean, if you're really coming from that position, that no one can guarantee anything. But if you don't move forward to get something into an agreement and then be able to put the right security.
But what has Putin said that gives you or President Trump any indication at all that he even wants a ceasefire? Putin has said he doesn't want a ceasefire at this point.
Putin is... Look, I'm not here to have an argument because you clearly have a position that I don't agree with.
What would that be? What would that position be?
Well,
I mean, we would both agree, wouldn't we, for a start, that Putin started the war?
Yeah, what I would say is that Putin legally violated international law. Morally, he thought he was right, and strategically...
But you would agree that morally he was wrong?
I know I would not agree morally is wrong. I would agree legally he was wrong.
You would agree, you would not think that a man who literally, as we speak, still sends drone attacks to kill Ukrainian civilians is morally wrong?
Oh, and you think that Ukraine isn't doing anything to the Russians?
Ukraine didn't invade Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine. That you wouldn't agree that was morally wrong?
Okay, all right. You know what? That is 3 years ago.
Right.
You
So if we
know,
were
the
sat in
thing
if we were
is
sat
that
in
Trump,
1942, would you have been on the radio going, "Look, don't worry about it. Hitler invaded Poland 3 years ago."
you know what? I didn't sign on for this hypothetical
It's not
discussion.
hypothetical. I'm just trying to tease out the logic of what you're saying, Dr. Halper Hayes.
Um, One is that James Baker and Thatcher and Mitterrand and Kohl, etc., had promised that NATO would not move 1 inch eastward,
Mm-hmm.
and that was violated.
Those
So you
countries.
want to look at all the different people that violated their agreement?
When did America start basically just sort of representing what Moscow thinks? Those countries wanted to be part of the NATO club. Your club. Are you saying that they should never have been allowed to exercise their democratic and sovereign rights as nations and join that
Oh,
club?
God. You know what? I don't like having my words twisted.
No.
I really don't.
You don't like, well, but that's the point of an interview, isn't it? Is to discuss what you're saying. And I'm just asking you, you're saying, with respect, Doctor, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You're saying that those countries should never have been allowed to join NATO, and then we wouldn't have been in this situation. And I'm saying to you that surely those countries should have been allowed.
I didn't say that.
Well,
see, that's why. No, hold on a minute.
But you cited what happened in the. So you're saying that it's fine for them to join NATO then?
I didn't say any of those things, and I don't like when someone tries to give words and interpret without understanding. I'm done. Okay. I'm off. I don't like you.
Okay. Well, that's fine, Dr. Halper Hayes. Maybe some of the listeners won't like you, but that's fine. I'm entirely indifferent to that. I'm very grateful for your time. Dr. Jan Halper Hayes there, former Global Vice President.
Watch the exact moment the ceasefire claim gets tested, because it's worth being precise about what was actually said versus how it's characterized. Halper Hayes says Zelensky told Trump, "I don't want a ceasefire," presented as if that reflects poor judgment or bad faith on Zelensky's part. Goodall's response reframes it with the missing context. Zelensky's actual position, as widely reported at the time, wasn't opposition to peace in the abstract. It was skepticism that a ceasefire would hold, given Russia's history of violating prior agreements, including the 2014-2015 Minsk Accords. Those are two very different claims. I don't want peace versus I don't trust this specific mechanism to produce lasting peace, and conflating them changes the meaning of the original statement substantially. That distinction matters regardless of where you land on the broader the question of how the war should be resolved. The exchange about Putin's own stated position deserves the same precision. Goodall's challenge, asking what specific statement from Putin indicated genuine willingness for a ceasefire at that point, is a fair evidentiary question rather than a rhetorical trap, since Russian officials had at various points publicly rejected ceasefire proposals or attached conditions widely seen as non-starters for Ukraine. Halper Hayes doesn't answer that specific question with a countervailing statement or evidence. She moves to a broader point about not wanting to argue, which functions as declining to answer rather than answering. The moral versus legal distinction Halper Hayes draws is worth sitting with directly, because it's a genuinely unusual position to hold explicitly on air, agreeing that Russia's invasion violated international law while declining to agree it was morally wrong. That's a real and specific claim, not a mischaracterization by Goodall. And it's fair to note that the vast majority of international commentary across the political spectrum, including from many who are otherwise skeptical of continued Western military support for Ukraine, treats an unprovoked invasion of a sovereign country as morally wrong as well as legally so, declining to make that second moral judgment while accepting the legal one is a specific and unusual position worth naming as such, rather than glossing over. The NATO expansion point is worth treating fairly as a real geopolitical debate rather than dismissing it purely as Russian narrative, even though Goodall's specific follow-up questions in this exchange are fair ones. Whether NATO's eastward expansion after the Cold War contributed to Russian security anxieties that fed into the current conflict is a genuine and long-running debate among Western foreign policy analysts and historians. Not a fringe position invented by Russian state messaging, even though the invasion itself remains, on the near universal view among those same analysts, an illegal and unjustified response regardless of that context. If breakdowns like this are useful to you, get subscribed to Harry Unfiltered, and I'll keep checking the specifics fairly, one interview at a time. The video's closing narration is worth flagging too, separate from the interview itself. Framing the entire exchange as evidence about these MAGA devotees broadly, or claiming this proves something general about American political reporters versus British ones, goes considerably further than one interview with one specific guest can establish. One person's difficulty defending a specific position in a single conversation is a real and worthwhile thing to examine closely, which this breakdown has tried to do. It isn't independent evidence about an entire political movement's intellectual character or a fair basis for broad claims about an entire national media culture, however sharp the specific exchange turned out to be.